Hello, viewers. Today, I would like to talk about a stream that a particular YouTuber happened to do that I attended. Their name is Food Shops. I do not know the significance of that name, but anyhow, I went to their stream, and they were talking about Asmongold. That YouTube streamer who has the weird looking teeth, and basically does commentary, plays games, and so forth. I had become interested in Food Shop's channel due to some of their critiques regarding Asmongold. And so she was doing a stream. I suppose they like being called a she. I think that particular person is transgender, but just to be safe, I might say they, because I really do not know how they identify. Anyhow, they were basically talking about the meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump. Apparently, Donald Trump was somewhat contentious with Zelensky, and people were talking about, to me it did not seem that contentious. He acts how he normally acts. Biden and Trump act differently anyhow. In my opinion, basically there really is not much change in policy. The United States has not really largely sort of shifted its interest, in my opinion. I mean, personally, but that's just my opinion. But anyhow, they had some basically very supportive opinions about Ukraine, and many Democrats are criticizing Trump. I myself am not a Democrat. As a man of the black social status, I have no real benefit from politics. No one really is giving us people of the black social status who are descendants of slaves and free people of color any type of reparations, any type of compensation for the many years of our ancestors' enslavement, Jim Crow discrimination, KKK harassment and terrorization, black American towns destroyed, after which periods many black communities would be gentrified, and many immigrants would come and be given government grants to start businesses in black communities. We of the black social status, I think, are uniquely in a position of not really even having any type of liking towards politics, even though many people of the black social status voting Democrat actually helps immigrants more than it does us. In a particular case regarding Biden and Trump, the Biden administration was largely more beneficial to the Ukrainian cause, so to speak, than Donald Trump. Biden and his family has been known to have had business dealings in Ukraine, the specifics of which I cannot necessarily speak all that well upon, but I do know about it. Many of us know about it. And so obviously it was kind of, it could be taken for granted that Trump would be a bit more, how should it be said, a bit more critical of Ukrainian investment, of investing in that country, giving them weapons, giving them military support. Allowing in so many Ukrainian immigrants. All of that is being looked at. And personally, as a man of the black social status who has nothing to gain from any of this, I personally do not see that as necessarily a bad thing. Many of us people of the black social status, and many people also who have of Jewish ancestry, whether that's Mizrahi or Ashkenazi or Sephardic or what have they, some people know how neo-Nazi culture is very popular in Ukraine. Now you may say, well, there were even people, in that stream, and I think she was saying it herself. I am not sure if this person, they were saying things like, well, someone said this. They said, well, there's Jewish members of the Azov battalion, I think. And I brought up the fact in the chat. I said, does anyone know who Dan Burrows is? That was literally a Jewish person who joined a neo-Nazi group. So, for whatever reason, there's the opinion that for whatever reason, a Jewish person cannot join or support the causes of neo-Nazis, and that's just ridiculous. This is almost like this is like that same type of argument where racists might say, well, I have black friends too. Or I have a black wife. Or, well, that person, well, he can't be racist. He can't be supporting racists because he's black. And there are many people who support racist groups. So, as you can see, this is Wikipedia. Daniel Burrows, March 5th, 1937. That is real early. Goodness. Was a Jewish, for him to be born, was a Jewish American who joined the American Neo-Nazi Party. Okay, this is not news to anyone. And if you look at the man, he looks exactly like any other European of the white social status. Of course, they only really have images on the Brave browser section, but if I were to go to Google, for sure I could get something else. This is some picture of whoever. But, I mean, this is the man right here, but he looks just like any other person of the white social status. Does he not? Does he not? So you cannot tell the difference between a person of Jewish descent oftentimes, unless it is some type of drastic, appearance difference like a Jewish person from Ethiopia. So this idea, they cannot be a neo-Nazi. The president's Jewish. Zelensky is Jewish. Some of these people, and I brought up in the chat, I was talking about Romany, and I actually got that person, Food Shops, to read some of my chat messages. And I talked about Romany. I talked about Romany people. And I was talking about in Ukraine, many of these Romany people are discriminated against. They are darker than an Ashkenazi of the white social status or a Ukrainian of the white social status. Now, there's no such thing as a white person. White as a social status is determined by skin color and hair texture. So, you can basically, yes, there is a history of Jewish people joining neo-Nazi groups. And I knew as that stream continued, and she was literally reading out my comments, and I noticed she actually said, when she said Romany, she didn't say Romany, she said Romanian. And that shows me she does not know about Romany in Ukraine. And she admitted there was a lot of things she didn't know about. And she said, well, I may have to research this or that. And I'm thinking, no, you do not know very much about these things. Do not really interest you as a, I suppose she's, phenotypically Asian, phenotypically Asian, maybe, type of, native, basically Asian phenotype. Asian phenotype basically is what she has. And I think these things would not interest you that much. They interest people like myself, who they affect in regard to neo-Nazis. In some cases, come to black, predominantly black neighborhoods and try to protest. So it does not just affect people of the Jewish social status. It affects people of the Romany descent, as well as, people of the black social status. It does. And this is something this person just does not know about. She does not know about Romany. All right? This person does not know about that. It's not something that she is familiar with. There's a lot she does not know. So I'm going to talk about, firstly, I had brought up the Azov battalion. Openly Nazi battalion. This was one of their symbols. This was one of the symbols that they used to have. I do not know if they still have it, but some people still have tattoos of it. All right, and I've seen those tattoos in pictures. So we have all of the predominant Nazi symbolism. Now, the history of Ukraine during World War II is an interesting one. There were plenty of Nazis back then. There are plenty of Nazis still there now. It is a big part of the Ukrainian culture. Now, Food Shop seems to think, well, this is just the obvious thing to do, is support Ukraine as an American. I mean, this is how they are talking. And I have to think, no, not all of us are thrilled about that. Maybe she, as a person who has an Asian phenotype and other people of the white social status have noticed that many of us of the black social status, we either do not say very much about this or else we are kind of against it because we know there's so many neo-Nazis in Ukraine. No, Putin was not necessarily lying. That is not to say there are not neo-Nazis in Russia too. However, neo-Nazi culture in Ukraine is far more accepted in Ukraine. Furthermore, in some parts of Russia, because they happen to fight the Nazis, some people in Russia do not accept neo-Nazi culture. They really do not like it. You cannot say that about Ukraine. You have Americans, apparently, you have people who are liberal. Some of these people are transgender. Some of these people are, they would be liberal about everything else, but they are not liberal about, this avid support of Nazis in Ukraine. And I say it. Today, basically, we are going to look at this symbol that basically is an emblem of Ukraine. If they could, they would show this everywhere. You see, they've had to sort of taper down some of their symbolism, but many people caught it, and they have pictures of it, they have images of it. So let's look at this. First part of it is A30B, Azov. You have the blue and yellow of the flag, the Ukrainian flag. You have the coat of arms of Ukraine. You have this symbol, the wolf's angel. German heraldic charge inspired by the historic wolf traps adopted by the Nazi Party, used prominently by the Wehrmacht, or whatever you would call that, and SS units. We have waves representing Ukraine's long history as a port country. You have the Black Sun, the legendary Black Sun of Hitler. Black Sun, a variation of the sun wheel, because in Nazism, a main part of that religion, and yes, it is a religion and ideology, what may be called in Germany a Weltanschauung. All right, a worldview, something you live by. That is all a religion is, in sooth. That is to say, in sooth, for those of you who do not read Shakespeare, please do. He was excellent as a writer. One of the best. So it's a variation of the sun wheel, popular and extensively used by neo-Nazis. White power extremist symbol, famously used on the armor and weapons of Christchurch mosque shooter Brendan Tarrant, who killed 51 and injured 40. All right? That is essentially a genocide there. This person apparently was saying that what is happening in Gaza right now is not a genocide, but we will talk more about that later. I was surprised. I thought, wow, really? This is just as terrible. I mean, what comes from her mouth is just as terrible as, for example, Barack Obama saying that, innocent people dying in Afghanistan is collateral damage. And I brought that up as a chat message. And I know this person has probably seen a lot of them as they were going past. She read a few. And she sort of she basically dismissed them with small statements, but didn't go into nuances. But I have to talk about this because I have to be honest. I know this may seem somewhat disrespectful to her if she is watching, but I'm serious about this. In sooth, when it comes to neo-Nazis, when it comes to money going to them, when it comes to United States taxpayers paying for these Nazi battalions and brigades that Ukraine has, and this person actually said, and I thought it was amazing. I thought the nerve of this person, and let me explain the nerve of food shops. I brought up the Nazi battalion. She could not deny it. So what this person ended up doing was say, well, they've changed. They no longer have Nazis. They no longer... Wow. Oh my goodness. So it's all right for United States taxpayer money to now once again be given to outright Nazis. Now, I just want to ask any of you, if I were to go up to a white supremacist, a KKK member, and say, you know what, and I had a whole brigade, a whole battalion of Ku Klux Klan members, they burnt crosses in front of black people's yards, okay, they've lynched people, they've done all manner of crimes, and we just say, oh, wait, they've changed, please give us money, please give us money, you Americans can keep giving us money, keep supporting us. And I said, hey, do this. Support us. Our soldiers aren't that way anymore. They've changed. This is what food shops had the nerve to say. And I'm thinking, it's United States taxpayer money being used to pay for these people who we know have shown a history of literally not only having Nazis in their battalions, but openly and outright showing off about how Nazi they happen to be. So when you hear people who are somewhat skeptical of this whole Ukraine support thing, that is one of the reasons why. I mean, just look at this symbol. This thing was out in the open. This is not even, this two major Nazi symbols. Basically, this is a stylized swastika. This is a traditional black sun. You can go to any United States prison and find these same symbols tattooed on Aryan Brotherhood members. You can. You can meet gang members in the United States, whether they're part of a police force, people of the white social status or whoever. In some cases, you have people who are Latin American who do it. You even have people in Asia, like in Taiwan, who go around holding up Nazi flags at times. And this culture, in my opinion, should not be supported at all. No United States taxpayer should have to support that. But, to really show how widespread this is, this was even in Taiwan. School students actually, with their principal, and of course they blur the faces. I think they should show all of their faces, to be frank, if you have the nerve to do something like this. Romany, people who are Jewish, all types of minorities in Germany were being ethnically cleansed. That was what was happening. This symbol is the sun symbol of the Aryan race. The whole idea of sun worship, of basically a race, people of the sun, children of the sun, and darker races being the children of darkness. This is obvious racial symbolism. You can find this even in the Dasu genocides that were committed by the original Aryans when they came into the subcontinent of India. You can research off this. But I deal with people who are historically ignorant, and they know far less than they think they do. They can just answer your question within a few sentences. They cannot expound upon much because they know very little. So yes, we can go all the way to Taiwan and find this culture in full force. And we know what it represents. No one needs to tell, oh, it's ignorance. No. The Ukrainians know what this is too. That is why they loved having this symbol, and they still do in some cases. Okay. There are people who have tattoos of swastikas, black suns, and other things. Even if you stop them from using them, they still believe in it. And I think, honestly, if this is known, no United States tax money should pay for any of these people when it is already known that they are have overtly displayed neo-Nazi beliefs and a whole, basically that being a predominant culture that has been pushed. They tried to clean them up. And you see, this person, Food Shops, is, she actually made it seem as though, they're better now. Oh, really? They're better now, huh? They're not the old Azov. They're not the old Azov battalion, but let's get started. I have other things that I want to talk about here. So we saw the symbol. Let's talk about Ukraine, some things that have happened in Ukraine. Let's talk about the Romany. Let's talk about what happens to the Romany in Ukraine. There's some people, they're all for supporting this country, this military, their little battalions, the racist, predominantly racist culture over here in Ukraine. So here's Los Angeles Times, June 25th, 2018. Deadly attack on Roma community in Ukraine is blamed on neo-Nazi youth because they are in that country. Reporting from KYIV, Ukraine. A violent attack on Roma, that is to say Romany, what are derogatorily called gypsies. Yes, those people. I do not even know if this person knows what a Romany is at all. Okay, this person has, I do not know if this person is Asian. I do not know if they know about particular ethnicities in Europe, other than just, people of the white social status. But yes, there are dark people called Romany there. Over there in Ukraine, they are treated just like people of the black social status here. They are treated with complete disrespect. For me to say that about a people group is amazing, because anyone who knows how it is to be treated as a person of the black social status here in this country, to say what I just said is amazing. Not to mention how badly they treat Africans in Ukraine. Okay, and when I say that you probably, and it's already been proven, there have been people who said that they have been treated better in Russia than Ukraine. Now, am I saying that Russia is some country that is just sort of so much better than Ukraine? No. But what I am saying is that for us who are not of the white social status, we may have a different opinion about this. Asians don't really seem to understand a lot of the nuances regarding, people of the black social status, Romany. My mother knew Romany here in the United States. She saw some of those people here in the United States. Okay, she got to interact with them. How many Asians even know about Romany? Does Food Shops even know about Romany? Because I think I was posting information in that chat that she could not even comprehend because she did not have a certain degree of knowledge to understand, what is the dynamic between Romany and Ukrainians? She literally, I heard her say Romanian, like, wow, you've never heard about Romany before? You've never heard about gypsies? Why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about Ukraine when you do not even know that there are people who are different than just the white social status Ukrainians? There are also Romany, all right? If you had to talk about the largest minority group in Ukraine that are native to the area, you would have to talk about Romany. The fact that none of these people are talking about support for Ukraine, they're talking about Romany, is very revealing. It seemeth to me that all of these people are just supporting the people of the white social status without any context of how it is to live as a Romany. That part of the discussion is not there. But anyhow, let's learn about how Romany are treated in Ukraine. Some of these people want to make excuses for the Azov battalion and basically act as though, racism in Ukraine is not a matter to talk about. But I will talk about it. All right? So here we go. A violent attack on the Roma encampment. in forest lands outside the western Ukrainian city of Lviv has left 24-year-old man dead and 4 others injured, including a young boy and a pregnant woman. The late Saturday, and she was arguing about what a genocide is. It's so ridiculous. They literally kill groups of people, whether you consider that to be a small group or not a small group. Talking about, Israel, talking about Gaza. Never mind. It's just we can find, literal ethnic cleansing in Ukraine and ethnic cleansing in, Gaza. We can find that. And she's like, oh, it matters about intent. It's like, what? So if you do like Obama did when he was answering questions about the Afghanistan, attacking people with drones, which he was famous for doing, him, especially, and you say the damage, all these killings is just collateral damage. They're not really murder. It's not really genocide. Oh, it's about intent. These are the types of things that I honestly think, in my opinion, this is the talk of madmen. This is the talk of psychopaths. The definition for genocide, the murder of a whole group of people, especially a nation, race, or religious group, victims of genocide. There's other definitions too, but this says nothing about intent. The point is that you have, in many cases, large groups of people, not necessarily a whole entire group of people, like as you've destroyed every person of a whole race. But it's just you have the act of ethnic cleansing. I think ethnic cleansing is a word that's more applicable, you could say, but nonetheless, there's literally intentional destruction of a people. When they went into that camp, they knew these people were Romany, and they wanted to destroy as many as they could. They wanted to slay them. The attack late Saturday was the latest and by far the most violent in a string of attacks on Ukraine's Roma communities, an itinerant ethnic group sometimes called gypsies. So food shops apparently did not know what a Romany is. Now you do. I do not think anyone should be talking about Ukraine when they do not know what the biggest minority group in the country is. And they never talk about them. They never talk about how they're treated. That is how I can know a person is out of their element and they do not really have much knowledge at all. Authorities said 7 masked men, believed to be associated with a neo-Nazi group, attacked the Roma community with knives, chains, and metal rods, fatally stabbing a man and mysteriously and seriously injuring a 10-year-old boy. A police video showed the encampment of tents and wagons was badly damaged in the attack. It was the 5th attack on a Roma settlement in the last 2 months. And when did this happen? 2018. That may seem like a long time, but it really is not that long ago. In terms of just a couple of years. Okay. So, these people, no, neo-Nazism is still in the country. To act as though, they got rid of all the Azov people that were racist. It's fixed now. Wow, just because they say just because they're not literally coming up into a person's face, coming up to a person's face and saying we're not Nazis. We've changed. You can give us money again. This is how ridiculous that person sounded when they were saying, the Azov battalion has changed. So I thought, are you joking? This is literally culture in Ukraine. We can point to things that have happened over the years to show that there's a neo-Nazi, whole big neo-Nazi culture in Ukraine. It's worse than a lot of places. Yes, it is worse than Russia. I mean, we can find neo-Nazi groups in other countries too, but Ukraine is probably one of the worst. To be honest, it's popular and accepted there. And you may say, well, Zelensky is a Jewish president. Is Zelensky Romany? They attack who they want to attack. The Romany are on the bottom class. And those of us of the black social status we know, they were Jewish Confederates fighting in, the Civil War in the United States. I do not want to hear any person make any type of excuse to justify that. To justify, well, Jewish people, they're helping and they're part of the Ukrainian military too. They can't. Jewish Confederates in the Civil War. They have a phenotype often that is white. And you're not going to be considered to be black or a person of color unless you have a darker shade of skin. And in many cases, the hair texture matters too. But if you have darker skin, that shows that, no, you're not of the white social status. You are not. So some of these people, they have no understanding of actual race dynamics. They have no understanding of the hierarchy of race dynamics within Western Europe, within Europe itself, within Russia, within the United States. They know nothing about these things. But, we have to educate some people or just, literally just share this. The Hebrew Confederate Cemetery. All right? Confederate, like Confederates, the Confederates that fought in the Civil War. Okay? The Confederates that fought that fought to keep slavery in the South. Yeah, those same Confederates. Those same Confederates, yes, those ones. So do not tell me a Jewish person cannot be a neo-Nazi. Do not tell me a Jewish person cannot support, the Confederacy in the Civil War, slavery, or any of those things, because some Jewish families even bought, even had control of slave ships that were transporting slaves during the transatlantic slave trade, and whatever you want to believe about that. All right, and the whole interesting, way this United States country was built on the backs of Aboriginal and African slaves. Both, honestly. So, there are people that they talk, and I wonder what they're talking about. I think, you're really going to make excuses for this outright Nazi, nation? Where Nazism is encouraged, where it is encouraged in their military. In any other country, this would not be allowed. You would not be allowed to create a whole Nazi battalion, have Nazi emblems in any of your logos. I mean, and to think, you have outright liberals, people who are even transgender supporting this stuff. And I could ignore it. I could say I'm a man of the black social status. This stuff does not affect me, but Nazis always affect us. Not too long ago, there were some Nazis that came into a black community. And in Lincoln Heights, there were some neo-Nazis. I don't like these people. I'm not going to like these people. I do not care who the United States government wants to support. I do not trust the United States government. The United States government enslaved my ancestors. The United States government is a white supremacist government. I have no respect for it whatsoever. And I have every right not to respect it. And I will not. So, basically, let me take a look here. And this person, whatever her name is, Food Shops, is talking about how she's kind of anti-establishment, but you support the establishment, to be entirely honest. If you support Ukraine, you do. After neo-Nazi rally, when did this happen? February 19th, 2025. People of the black social stance have decided to take up arms and defend their communities from these neo-Nazis. The United States government was giving money to these people the Azov battalion and, Ukrainian military groups for a very long time, spending money that taxpayers make. And you know what that means. The money of people of the black social status was going to it. The money of Jewish people was going to it. People who may not support neo-Nazis and would never support neo-Nazis at all if they had the choice. Their taxpayer money is going to support a largely, Nazified nation, so to speak. And it is the truth. You have whole camps of Romany being burnt down and attacked by, white supremacist clowns, to be honest. And I have seen other interviews about it. People say that these people often get away with it and they are not charged with anything because it is accepted there. But as I said, there are so many people who they should not say anything if they do not know anything. And they should not be so curt and dismissive if they have not studied an issue. Anyhow, I just have to do some educating, to anyone who wants to listen, honestly. So, let me see. Authorities said 7 masked men believed to be associated with a neo-Nazi group attacked the Roma community. I already read that part. It's the 5th attack in like 2 months. The attackers executed 1 man and got to the next one, who is now in the hospital. Roma rights advocate Mykola Yurshenko said the guy, 19 years. And do you hear any of this type of information from Ukrainians in general? No, you do not. And you certainly do not hear it from food shops. They're not talking about it. They're literally defending the Azov battalion. They're defending it. And you think, wow, why do I never hear any of these Ukraine supporters and any of these Ukrainians talk about that? They do not want to talk about that. So why should I support a very predominantly racist country? I do not even support, this country that I live in. Every person of the black social status is a prisoner of war. When the slave owners had released our ancestors, they were paid reparations for the money that they lost from losing slaves, but the slaves were paid nothing. So, to be honest, I have every reason to speak about this. Anything that has to do with Nazis or white supremacists, I'm going to talk about this. You have many of these so-called fake, many of these liberals, so-called liberals, or people who apparently are very libertine, and they have so much to say, and they know, they know so much about so many issues, but this is not an issue that she knows about. Okay, this is, the Democratic Party, just like the Republican Party, is a war party, and they support their own little allies that they use as proxies too. And just like Joe Biden had the Biden family had their business dealings in Ukraine, and Trump has whatever business dealings he has. This is a game to them. Lives are a game to them. They don't care about who gets caught up in it. And so for me, they make it seem like this is some righteous war that the United States is helping the Ukrainians fight. And it's not. Because that whole society is not only flawed, but it's going to keep going the way it is. That neo-Nazism is still in the country. Why would any of us, knowing what we know, want to support, want to give money to a country that approves of neo-Nazism? And you have so-called liberals doing it. And you saw, wow, you're no better than your Republican adversaries. You're just the same. You're hypocrites too. I mean, you're just as much of a hypocrite as any Republican or conservative that supports whatever they support. That's what that makes you. And it's just the truth. And it's so very annoying to see this. But anyhow, let me see. So we've read a bit of this article. I could continue reading it. Maybe there's something useful in it. So let me see here. There's more information here. So they're executing people. The guy, 19 years old, did not try to run. He was standing on his knees, begging for mercy. But then the police arrived. The suspected assailants were apprehended along with a 20-year-old organizer, police said. Authorities said the attackers called themselves sober and angry youth. All right, they're not even drunk. They're sober now. Wow. And are affiliated with the Misanthropic Division, one of the many neo-Nazi groups that have mushroomed throughout Ukraine in recent years. And it's not just simply recent years. Ukraine has a long history of Nazism. Let us call it what it is, and let's talk about what this country really is. This country that the United States continues to give money to. The attackers also refer to themselves as the Limburg Jugend, or Youth of Limburg, a reference to Lviv's name when it was part of the Austrian Empire, and a phrase that mimics the moniker of Hitler Youth. Ukrainian media reported the group posted a video titled "A Small Report from a Gypsy Safari" on its YouTube channel, but it was removed shortly after the suspect's arrest, police said. All right, let me continue. Though Ukraine lost almost a fifth of its population during World War II, some descendants of the soldiers who fought German Nazis now sport swastika tattoos and shave their heads, and white supremacists and neo-Nazi groups have become feared forces in the country. Hundreds of the activist soccer fans and ultra-nationalists formed the Azov Battalion. And you just think about how stupid you have to be to have a whole little racist group from soccer, a little dumb sport where you kick a ball with your feet. And you decide to go and basically, after your game, beat up some gypsies or whoever, some Romany people. It's terrible. Why would this be in the mainstream? Why would people support a country like this? They're not being given any information about the larger culture, the culture at large, and the racist sentiments that are popular in it. I mean, it is incredible where you have Romany people being treated as literal, I would not even say second-class, third-class citizens, honestly, if not citizens at all. Hundreds of the activists, soccer fans, okay, let me see, and ultra-nationalists, they formed the Azov Battalion, a paramilitary force that has been fighting pro-Russia separatists in the eastern provinces of Donetsk and Luhansk since 2014. The battalion is credited by some with helping the Ukrainian military regain key areas. They were the real political force in Ukraine that is ready to join the army and fight well, said Nikolai Mitrokhin. They were the only real political force in Ukraine. Wow, the only real political force in Ukraine that is ready to fight is neo-Nazis? And this person literally had the nerve to tell me, oh, well, the Azov Battalion has changed. They're no longer like that. Yeah, you mean they cleaned up their appearance? Just be honest. How ridiculous to hear this. How ridiculous to hear this from a person who knows basically nothing about the matter, about Romany people in Ukraine and the literal racist culture in that country. They're not attacking, for the most part, people of Jewish descent. They're attacking Romany now. They're attacking those dark Romany. All right? Because they have the least money and the least capability to defend themselves in any way, legally, physically, with weapons. They have nothing. Those people are completely disenfranchised and exploited in that country. And I hear people, people in the comment section trying to tell me, people in the chat section literally trying to tell me, well, there's Jewish members of some of the Ukrainian military. And I was like, what a joke. How many Romany members are there? Okay, most Jewish people are not as dark as Romany. I mean, do we have to literally take some time to explain racism to people? And it's ridiculous because you see, it's a bit different, especially regarding, people who are Asian. because they themselves, a lot of people, if they are not dark Asians like Southeast Asianers, people who are Thai, they don't really understand the difference between being darker as a minority and just being tawny or basically cream colored. You're not too dark yet. Okay? And it's just a matter of treatment. Romanis are treated differently than Jewish people. They have less money than most Jewish people in the country. This is proven. I mean, there are people who oftentimes they travel. A lot of those people are basically homeless. And you have, I don't know what ethnicity she is. I mean, she has an Asian phenotype. I've seen a few pictures of her because someone was saying, "Oh, she has an OnlyFans. You should go look at us." And I thought, all right. I mean, she looks Asian or whatever, but it's just, it's just she does not understand the dynamics of racism in Ukraine. She does not understand the dynamics of racism in Ukraine. You don't understand it. If this is a question you have to ask regarding why, Jewish people can be treated like white people and Romany are treated differently. I mean, if that's a question you have to ask and you have to wonder, well, we know it's not like neo-Nazi, it's like these neo-Nazi groups are really that racist, because after all, they're treating, they don't treat Jewish people bad anymore, but they still treat Romany bad. And it's no surprise. Romany people are often darker. You can't take a look at some white people and some Ukrainians of the white social status and say, hey, I saw this Romany, he looks just like you. Most of the time, the Romany over there in Ukraine especially look darker. For the most part, you can tell when you've seen a Romany in Ukraine, and they are not treated the same. It does not matter that Zelensky apparently is Jewish. It does not matter. He is still of the white social status. If he goes anywhere in the United States, people call him white. If he walks around Ukraine and nobody knew him, people would just say, that's a white man. I mean, it's ridiculous that we, especially people of the black social status, have to explain this to people who, for whatever reason, do not seem to understand this. I mean, I guess we know more about race than anyone because oftentimes, it seems like many of us have to deal with it the most. So if we talk about it, yes, we know what we're talking about. Okay? So that's obvious. And this person, she does not know what she's talking about. I mean, Ukraine, the Azov battalion changed, right? It changed, right? Okay. I mean, we're supposed to take your word. We're supposed to take your word and believe that. That's amazing. Okay, we're supposed to believe, even though they had the swastika, the Black Suns, a lot of their, members have Nazi tattoos. Yeah, we can believe you. Our money should go to them. This is ridiculous. No, they should scrutinize every cent of money going into Ukraine. And if a person considers that to be not good for the United States, you should ask what type of allegiance they have. You don't care about people's tax money. You don't care about people in the black social status who have to have their money going to literal Nazis who dislike their very existence. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You don't care about Romany. You do not care about Romany. If you think this whole nation, for whatever reason, it's just some type of righteous cause they're fighting against Russia. Let me be honest. Romany would not have to deal with the neo-Nazi groups if Russia took power. You think the Russians would allow an Azov battalion in their territory? No. Not at all. Not at all. They would not. Okay? Not to say there is not bigotry against Romany in Russia, but you can't just go and destroy a whole camp and literally get away with it. I mean, this happens a lot in Ukraine. I mean, attacks against Romany are extensive. I mean, this country is far more hateful even than Russia. And that's saying something. When I can say that honestly, I can say, hey, even Russia, I can't even say that Russia allows neo-Nazis to get away with this much. You can find neo-Nazis in just about every single European and Slavic country if you look hard enough. But you can most certainly find them in Ukraine. Do not joke. Do not pretend that that is not the case. But she is. All right. Anyhow, let me see. So yeah, they're the only real power to sort of become a real, force to join the army and fight well, because they're a bunch of racist bigots. And these people, yeah, they want to fight. They've been looking forward to kill, and they finally get to do it. They've been doing it. Okay, pro-Kremlin media in Russia, however, contend their military successes are a sign that Ukraine has become a haven for neo-Nazis. They have been, and want to instigate a genocide of ethnic Russians. And some people think this is a joke. They think it's a joke, and that Russia, and I'm not saying I support Russia. I don't support any of these groups as a man of the black social status. Do not bring me in it. Don't even try. Those of us with the black social status, however, may ask, hey, why is our money going to support literal Nazis? We don't want a single red cent to be given to Nazis from our pockets as people of the black social status who've had to deal with these people in the KKK, neo-Nazis, and other groups who do not respect us, who do not respect our existence. All right? So, let me see. So you have this guy from Ukraine's top law enforcement agency. Oh, Russia may be behind the attack. Oh, no. Because you have a whole culture and history of glorifying Nazism. We know it. We've seen it. Don't joke. Don't pretend like you have not done that. We know you have. Anyhow, let's go to the second story. Because honestly, we got to look at Don Burrows, a Jewish American neo-Nazi. So don't have anyone come here unless you can show me a Romany neo-Nazi. Then don't even pretend. I know there's this man in the United States called Gypsy Crusader, or whatever his name is. I have no idea. That man is an outlier. He's a weirdo, so to speak. I don't like to even call people that word, but basically that man, maybe you can. I suppose if he considers himself a Nazi, I guess he is a Romany neo-Nazi too. But at the same time, to pretend the Azov battalion in Ukrainian military, oh, they're no longer Nazis. They're not like that anymore. They've cleaned themselves up. I mean, you just think about how corrupt that statement is, knowing they have a history of this culture, of literally being against Romany people. The biggest minority group they have over there, basically, for the most part, that's native to the population, that's native to the land, that's been there for who knows how long. Okay, nobody knows how long these people have been there. With axes and hammers, far-right vigilantes destroy another Romany camp in Kiev. Okay? So, where did the other one take place? I think the other one took place here in Lviv. Okay, Ukrainian city of Lviv. Now this one's in Kiev. Okay, so two different cities. One starts with a K, the other starts with an L, I suppose. The attack marks the second such instance by far-right vigilantes. We had this particular article said that, this is the fifth attack on Roma, since the last 2 months. This stuff is happening. There are people, they know nothing about Ukrainian culture. They know nothing about the Romany minority group. They have no understanding at all. Food shops, you have no understanding about this. You don't. You don't have any understanding about this. And you didn't when I was sending those chat messages. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay? Swinging axes and sledgehammers as the camera rolled. Members of the far-right Azov National Druzhyna, whatever the hell that is pronounced as, militia destroyed the Romany camp. Guess who did it? Azov. Don't tell me, oh, they're not racist anymore, they're not Nazis anymore. You are food shops, that is clownish. That's completely clownish. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not really knowledgeable about complexion-based bigotry, racism, ethnic prejudice. You're not knowledgeable about that. You really cannot dismiss things that you have no research or understanding about. I mean, you can't. It's ridiculous. The attack marks the second such incident by far right, as I said, second one. The national whatever, a militia formed in, and it said, what? Militia formed in January by the veterans of the far right Azov Battalion. Wow, I mean, you mean to tell me Food Shop supports a far right battalion? And Destiny 2 for that matter, and visited the camp earlier in the day and spoken threateningly with a woman who lived there. An encounter that was filmed by the group and published on its Facebook page. They go around posting stuff like this. What's the difference now? They just don't do it in the open? We have a history of them doing it. Just because Food Shops wants to tell me the racists are no longer there does not mean I have to believe her. I'm not going to. The militia also issued an ultimatum in the Facebook post for the Roma to clear out within 24 hours or be forced out by a mob. When the police don't act, the national, I tell you, and this is what is happening over there. This is what has been happening. And there were stories regarding even, recently, at least like 1 or 2 years ago, that I have not brought up, but I could bring them up. And I may do in the future. We can find so much information about this. And, if you look for, of course, that's age restricted if I want to watch it, so I have to log in, and I'm not logged in. The video, it's been removed, though. But basically, it shows these people, with their little groups insignia, hacking at the camp's makeshift homes with axes and hammers. You don't know anything about the Romany. You don't know that. You don't know about them. You should learn about them, Food Shops. You do not know about them. But you're literally, when you're talking about Ukraine, when you're talking about how the Azov Battalion changed, you are not referencing the whole history in Ukraine of these same people committing racist pogroms, going around and abusing Romany. You don't even know what a Romany is. You're literally saying that you're literally, when you read the word in the chat, you're saying Romanian. That's how I know you don't know much. You don't know much about this. You have a lot of research to do. Okay, at one point, the militia members mock a woman and child fleeing with their belongings, asking if they plan to eat a nearby dog. I heard you eat dogs, one of the men says. Later, another belittles a woman trying to collect belongings from the debris by suggesting her actions might be acceptable in India, but not here. Because they like to say, a lot of these people who study DNA science, they got blood from a lot of these Romany. And they said, hey, we did your DNA, you're Indian. That's all you are, just a bunch of immigrants. And I will say this, that DNA tests to determine race are completely fallacious, because DNA cannot determine race. Race is a social construct. Okay, it does not account for anything, because you cannot determine who was where, at what place, and what time. Your DNA testing does not do that, but they've been using those DNA tests of Romany, of so-called gypsies, to say, oh, you're just a bunch of Indians. And a lot of Romanies say, no, we've been here. You don't know where we came from. You don't know our history. A lot of gypsies have pushed, a lot of Romany, that is to say, excuse my disrespect, but if you ask me, being known as a gypsy, in my opinion, or Romany, it means so much more than being of the white social status, considering how much they went through and how much dignity you have to do to bear all of that oppression in Europe, and to some extent even the United States. well, not necessarily the United States per se, but I mean, there was some Romany discrimination. Not as much as Europe, though. In Europe, it is terrible. In Europe, their social status is essentially, kind of how the black social status was in Jim Crow days. Okay? I mean, although the black social status is still the lowest social status here in the United States, over there in Ukraine, the people who are treated the worst are the native Romany people. Okay, so of course he's saying, oh, you're an Indian. Oh, why don't you go back to India? Because they believe you don't have a place in this country. We did some DNA tests and now we think you're all just Indians. They cannot tell it's just like if you come here to the United States and you tell the American Indians, oh, you're just Siberians. Go back to Siberia. How ridiculous. No one knows how long these Romany have been around. There has been a history of darker peoples like that, throughout European history. And, that's a whole history to investigate, but that's where that comes from. That whole idea, oh, go back to India. I'm going to support, the Romany in this instance. And, I have no control of how any of these, political machinations go, but I'm certainly going to talk about the Romany, because no one who talks about Ukraine, it seems, talks about the Romany. And we cannot expect food shops to do it, because food shops does not even know what a Romany is. All right? All we hear about is Ukrainians of the white social status, because apparently, if you listen to any of these people, you would think Romany and Ukraine do not exist. All right? It's ridiculous. Anyhow, so what did this person say? Okay, this is something else. Oh no, this isn't something else. I'm still reading the same thing. Near the end of the video, uniformed Ukrainian police appear and casually make conversations as the nationalists round up the raid. The police are on their side. The police are on the side of the bigots. I mean, much like a lot of the police down here in the southern United States are, on code with the KKK and neo-Nazi bigots. Okay? Honestly. But, I mean, no one on the news, none of these politicians are saying, okay, Ukraine, once you defend your nation, how are you going to treat the Romany when you win? Or how about Trump or any of these people say, if we give you money, you better treat the Romany people well. If you do not treat them well, we don't want to give you money. We have citizens here who are of different minority groups, who come from different minority groups. They don't want to send money to neo-Nazi racists. They don't agree with you. They don't want their tax money spent on you. But we don't hear that. We don't have any choice when our money goes to fund Israel and they kill people in Gaza. We don't have any recourse when they take our money to support Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates when they're basically destroying, basically slaying people in Yemen. And this person literally, food shops is literally trying to excuse genocide. He said, well, you can't prove intent. I'm thinking it's pretty obvious what the intent is. I mean, who is this person? A lawyer? It's so ridiculous. This is like a serpent's tongue, honestly. It's disgusting. Kiev police spokeswoman Oksana, but we're going to look at some stuff having to do with Gaza. And I'm going to let you make the decision if it's a genocide or not, if genocides have occurred in Gaza. Because food shops apparently is saying, no genocides occurred in Gaza. I mean, I didn't think this person was like this when I subscribed to that channel. I just decided to join the scream. I did not imagine I would hear such ridiculous things. I thought, well, this person seems kind of intelligent. No, not really. Not really. I mean, not in regard to certain issues. Let me put it that way. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I know some people who... Oh, goodness. Let me continue. Kiev police spokeswoman, whatever her name is, and whatever type of TV channel that is, I cannot pronounce it. The Romany group had already fled the camp when militia members arrive, which the video clearly contradicts because they lie for them. That Azov battalion, those racist groups over there in Ukraine, the police are helping them. You want us to support this? Are you crazy, food shops? People like you who want us to support Ukraine? This is ridiculous. It's disgusting. It really is. Please do some research. Oh my goodness, this is absolutely terrible. She added that no one had been injured and nobody had been detained. Wow, they keep attacking, Romany camps. I mean, how ridiculous. Late on June 7th, Ukraine's national police said in a statement that it had begun criminal proceedings, a case of hooliganism, even though these people have committed murder, all types of crimes against these Romany. That's a corrupt police force. I mean, this whole country is corrupt. Not to say the United States is not corrupt. The United States is corrupt too. It absolutely is. And I say that with a great deal of, information as a person of the black social status. All active participants in this event will be identified. No, they won't. White right-wing immunity, you bet. The article says I don't know how to pronounce that word. Anyhow, this camp attack follows 3 others within the past month and a half. Okay. So in May, right-wing thugs attacked the Romany camp in western Ternopil that followed the burning of one in the nearby village of Rudne in the Lviv region. Okay. In April, members of the right-wing extremist group C-14 chased a group of Roma from their camp at Lysahora Nature Reserve in Kiev. Masked attackers hurled stones and sprayed gas as they chased terrified Romani men, women, and children from their makeshift settlement. Their military is engaging in this. A lot of these Nazis, just out and about are engaging in this. This is the history of Ukraine. This is a lot of the history of Ukraine that's been happening over the last couple of years that a lot of these people want you to not know about. They want you to not know about. They want you to think, oh, you see this man? Oh, doesn't he look handsome? This guy who will not even wear a suit. He goes around dressing, when you see him on TV in this country, it's just a show. And you see the symbol, of course, your little national symbol. Here on this the coat of arms for Ukraine. They have this man in military garb, okay, pretending like he's fighting with his little racist battalion soldiers. And you have people saying, oh, he's Jewish. Look, who's darker? Donald Trump, at least in regard to his face, but they both look the same skin color. Racism and bigotry has to do with skin color. And if that is not the case, why are the Romani treated differently than the Jewish people now in Ukraine? You tell me that. Why are they still attacking Roma, but they're not attacking Jewish people like, the president and other people like that, because they have more power and control in that country. And Romani are considered to be a lesser group, and they're being attacked. They're being attacked because they can bully them. They don't have much power, and they're dark people, and they don't like that. There's a whole history of this. But we have to explain how racism works to people who, for whatever reason, want to defend Ukraine. I can't imagine why. Oh my goodness. So foreign students fleeing Ukraine say they face segregation. Let's talk about how when people were fleeing Ukraine, when all of this war stuff had begun. And I was trying to look for some Romani, but they're a bit darker. They look a bit different than this. Let me show you the difference between an Ashkenazi Jewish person oftentimes, just looking at the images. Apparently, Zelensky, has some Jewish ancestry, but he looks just like any other European of the white social status. If you look at the Romany, oftentimes Romany are darker. You see, these are tawny shades of skin, tan shades of skin. All right, this is common sense. This is why they're still being persecuted by the little neo-Nazi groups over there. And so Zelensky uses them. I mean, you even have Nazi parades in Taiwan. Don't try to pretend this stuff does not happen in food shops. Don't try to pretend this stuff is not a big problem. This is something that some of us here in the United States, we don't want the taxpayer money going towards people like this. We don't. We just don't. We don't care about who wins that war. We don't want our money involved in it. We don't respect the people who are fighting it. We don't respect the Azov Battalion and any of their neo-Nazi groups or neo-Nazi culture. We don't respect it. You're not going to get us to respect it. I mean, you can dismiss it all you want. The truth is out here. The very fact that I can review this shows the truth has been out here for a long time. You want to support that? Everyone knows what you're supporting. Okay, foreign students fleeing Ukraine say they face segregation, racism at the border. This was a big thing. They were treating the Ukrainians of the white social status differently than they were Africans and Asians and other people. One African medical student told CNN that she and other foreigners were ordered off the public transit bus at a checkpoint between Ukraine and the Poland border. This is because racism is really in action. They're getting the darker people to come off. They're discriminating and segregating the darker people. This is what Miss Food Shops decided to support. That's what she decided to do. It's disgraceful, but hey, you want to support those people? Okay. You go and support those people. But, I'm going to call it out. Okay, they called Ukraine home, but faced violence and racism when they tried to flee. Let's look at that one. Because right now, I'm not going to read the articles entirely because it can take a long time. I'm going to read parts of them. Okay, so they tried to flee. They faced violence and racism. So this picture is refugees wake up out on blankets and cardboard on the ground on the Polish side of the whatever name that is crossing. Okay, let's see. This is a whole article about this stuff. Here we go. This is someone that's speaking, Arabic somehow. The security is beating foreigners now. My brother is in the hospital. You want us to support that country. You want us to support that. You want us to support Ukraine. You want us to support these people. You want us to support their war effort. I do not. I never will. Never. The United States will use that country as a proxy, as a buffer against Russia, but I will never support these people. I won't do it. I'm going to talk about this even if people don't like it. Food shops did not like it, but it's too bad. I'm still going to talk about it. So we have NBC News. Okay. NBC News. This man, both of these people are, in my opinion, I don't respect them. I don't respect Biden either. I don't respect any of these people. Ukraine's Nazi problem is real. And look at this. Here we have the same type of swastika type symbol that was popular in the World War II Germany. Okay. World War II Nazi Germany that committed many genocides. Ukraine's Nazi problem is real, even if Putin's denazification claim isn't. But I know one thing. If he actually went in there and got rid of these Nazis, even if he took them away from the military, even if he got them out of the military, it would be good for the Romany people. These people do not treat Romany well. They carry all of this Nazi symbolism. They go into Romany camps. They will not allow these people to live. peacefully. They want every single Romany person out of their country. Nazism is a racist ideology. It is a racist religion. It is a racist Weltanschauung. That is to say, worldview. You live and die by your worldview as a person with ideas. We live with worldviews. Every person has one. The worldview they have is one of real Nazi white supremacy. Let me just call it what it is. I mean, it's ridiculous. For 10 hours, from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. And the buses were passing carrying Ukrainians to the border. And we were not moving. We reached the border just to get the exit stamp. We waited for many hours. And while Ukrainians had the right to use the buses, we had to walk. We were really shocked. Okay, I mean, you can see, basically, it was hectic. And what they did, they discriminate. I think not all Ukrainians are racist or something, or whatever. But at the border, the border guys, border soldiers, border police, they were like super racist, I think. Yeah, they are super racist. Because they have racist Azov Battalion Nazis in their military. That is not a surprise. All right? I mean, that's not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all. Not a surprise at all. Okay, we knew that. That was obvious. I mean, we just read enough to know that, let's not get into this matter of weird conjectures where we're going to say, make a complete assumption where we're saying, hey, the Azov Battalion is not racist anymore. They stopped being racist. They stopped being Nazis. I mean, when did they stop being Nazis? I mean, when did they stop being neo-Nazis? When did they start reforming their little battalion? I mean, there's no evidence that they're not Nazis anymore. There's no evidence that the Azov Battalion has fundamentally changed, their worldview. That those people fundamentally stopped being Nazis. There's no proof of that. And that claim was ridiculous. Anyhow, let me look at the next article here. 8 years after 2008. Now, she also talked about Gaza. And this was very interesting because I thought, to say that a genocide did not occur in Gaza, that was incredible to me. But I just want to share this information. 8 years after the 2009 cast-led hostilities in Gaza, lack of accountability persists. And lack of accountability also from and this is the United Nations Office for Coordination and Humanitarian Efforts. So what do they say? The uninterrupted airstrikes, artillery shelling, and ground operations resulted in, this is regarding 2008, Israel Operation Cast Lead. Ground operations resulted in the killing of 1,383 Palestinians, including 333 children and 114 women, and the injury of over 53,000. There's more things I could read about, like 1948. Those are obvious genocides. For someone to literally claim, oh, it's not a genocide. How many children have to die? How many women have to die? How many other people that you don't care about, food shops, have to die before you and other people will call what Israel constantly does a genocide? And you're saying, oh, this is about intent. You can't prove it. How ridiculous. How ridiculous to hear this from someone like that. You hear many people who are transgender talk about, oh, we've received so much discrimination in this country, in the world. And You mean to tell me food shops is acting like what's going on in Gaza is not a genocide? That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow. Some care for human rights. And there were people even saying that, you know, the LGBT rights in the United States are like the black civil rights. Wow. And they're conflating the two. And I'm thinking, how can any person who supports civil rights for any group of people, any type of people group, any type of collective of people really say that, you know, and honestly, that what's been going on in Gaza has not been genocide after genocide? That's incredible. That's incredible. But, you know, here we go. We have so much information about this. We can just go to Washington Post. Okay, they have... Anyhow, there's some called mowing the grass. It's an Israeli tactic. And the idea is to kill a great deal of people in Gaza and basically commit a genocide every few years to basically put them in their place. This is a phrase because you have to, you know, you can't just tell food shops something and they can just believe it and have enough sense to understand. Wait. Mowing the lawn, the weaponization of water and technology in Palestine, because it's literally a type of prison, an open-air prison. And Israel is itself an ethno-state. Anytime you have a Jewish state, that's an ethno-state. So let's see. Where does the phrase come from? I'm going to have to look. Let me see. Okay, in the most recent issue of Logic's magazine, Edward, whatever his name is, writes about Israel's strategy towards Gaza called Mowing the Lawn. Bursts of horrifying violence, a collective punishment of Palestinian people, followed by calmer periods where survivors are left to bury the dead and rebuild their infrastructure while Israel continues to deepen its occupation. The scale and breadth of the death, destruction, and dispossession of the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people since 7th October 2023 has been immeasurably devastating. Alongside the slow violence persists. I think I may need to drink some water. In sooth. One moment, viewers. Let me cut this on. Yeah. Is that working? I don't think the sound is working. Let me see. Let me see if I can get the sound working. Maybe it is working. I have no idea. Okay. Let me read the rest. First, Palestinians barely have access to clean water, even though water is essential for life. Since October 2023, Israel has bombed, destroyed, and contaminated many sources of water infrastructure. Oh, but you have to prove intent, right? You have to prove intent. Well, let me see where the phrase mowing the lawn came from. That food shop sounds like a politician. You know, to say something like that. Mowing the grass, used by Israel against Palestinian militants in Gaza. The term was coined by Ephraim Enbar and whoever this person is. So these are the people, apparently, who came up with that phrase, but they're literally saying they're mowing the grass. And if that is not an intent for genocide, I do not know what is. But you can look at so many other things. You can just look at what some politicians say. It's just like there was Netanyahu talking about how, you know, what did he call them? Netanyahu was calling them, Amalekites or Amakites? Amalek, he was calling Palestine Amalek, and this was a genocide that happened in the Bible. I mean, basically, you know, these were the enemies of Israel. I mean, even though Israel lost their kingdom eventually because they started to commit the very same, actions that the Canaanites committed and so forth, and the Greeks took it, then the Romans took it. There's a whole history of that. But basically, the idea is that in the book of Esther, that has to do with the destruction of the Amalekites, and you have this woman called Esther. Her name comes from the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, a goddess of war and sex. I mean, to me, that book is highly suspect and just shows you what some people believe in, which is not what Jesus taught, because he said be peacemakers. And maybe that was the problem with, why people hated him. But anyhow, I mean, this is a well-known term. They control how much food goes in there. They control how much water goes into Gaza. They have the place walled off. They do not let people enter or leave without their permission at their checkpoints. They took their land by force and committed genocides to take it. The United States also committed genocides to take their property and land from American Indians. They justified the destruction of black American towns. All right? I mean, not to mention the American Indians who were reclassified as Negro. I mean, we can go through all of that history. The United States is built upon genocides. Israel itself is currently being built upon genocides. The United Arab Emirates has been built a great deal by slave labor in the country, and is still to this day being built by slave labor in the country. That is allowed in the United Arab Emirates. So these matters regarding nations are obvious. I do not support any type of neo-Nazi nation. A nation is an idea. I do not support any type of people that believe that any type of literally neo-Nazi battalion is acceptable. I don't support that stuff. I'm a person of the black social status. Okay, I'm a peacemaker, just like Jesus said. I don't like that stuff. Apparently that's fine with food shops. I mean, whatever. Food shops does not know much. She does not even know what a Romany is. Why should I trust her? Why should anyone trust her if they really want to know anything about the subject of Ukraine? Because all she's talking about is basically Ukrainians of the white social status. She's not talking about, the Romany minority group. She's not doing it. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, if anyone talks about Ukraine, all I have to do is just ask, hey, how are they going to treat the Romany? If they're not going to treat the Romany any better than they have been treating them, then I do not care about, that nation. That nation as an idea is not one I respect or care about. I don't. Come what may. If Russia wins, they win. It does not matter. Because the Azov Battalion, Ukrainian racists have a history of attacking Roma. And Romany people have been in the country for who knows how long. Okay? It's ridiculous. But I have to address these disgraceful issues. I just do. I feel the need to. So, I think I've basically reviewed what I wanted to review. Oh goodness, has this been on the whole time? Anyhow, that sound may have been on the whole time. I have no idea if that sound has been on the whole time. If it has, maybe that's ruined the video. But anyhow, I said what I had to say. This person, to me, became somewhat, oh my goodness. I was just looking at it and I was just thinking, wow, this person does not know what a Romany is. They're talking about how Azov, and they don't know what the Azov Battalion and those far-right militia groups have been doing. She does not know. And other people, a lot of these people who support Ukraine, they don't know and they don't care. And it's ridiculous. And some people make excuses for racist bigots. And that is what is surprising. Anyhow, viewers, I think I'm going to end this video here. May you be blessed and farewell.